Thank you for being with us today.
Hello, thank you for having me, and a very warm good afternoon to everyone.
Nilofar, you are a businesswoman, activist for women's rights, and a mother of 3. And back in Afghanistan, you were a business owner, and you had a very active life. And on August 20th, your life changed completely. Can you tell us how did it happen, and how did it happen that you had to leave?
All right, so imagine all the titles you just mentioned about me, the life. Each one of those titles took me years of work for that. And suddenly, an entire country of 40 million people, population collapses. And you're one of those 40 million people, and all you had to do is, you receive a message, it's almost late in the night, just like other nights, your kids ask for favorite noodles, and for that, they always turn to their daddy because mommy doesn't know how to cook. And me, as usual, having my cup of green tea. That night, my mother was also with me because of the situation, and she knew that I was stressed. I received a message. The message says that you have to be at the airport in 2 hours, and you only have 2 backpacks allowance.
Wow, 2 backpacks. So how did you feel when you get this message?
You know, my heart dropped. I just had a look at my mother's face, and she also broke a little, and I said I had to go. And I didn't have the time to even look at my house, and I just threw everything on the floor and picked the most important things in one backpack and my kids' diaper and milk in other. And we had to leave we left the food for my daughter left on the stove, my cup of tea right on the side of my bed, and an entire home. So you know how I felt.
Yes, wow. So when you arrived at the airport with your family, with your 3 children, and with your husband, what happened and what did you experience at the airport?
You may have seen this apocalypse movies a lot in Hollywood, which I would always say that it's impossible for human beings to be this cruel, to run over each other, to reach one plane, to save their life and families. But we experienced the same thing in reality. It was the doomsday of our life, 100,000s of people, each one of them desperate to save their families, their kids, and to leave everything behind. And we were also one of them. There was a lot of obstacles. We had to cross the terrorist checkpoints who just had invaded our country. We had to pass these checkpoints without getting recognized, and we had to go through 100,000 of crowd. And there was a moment that 4 women got run over and died. That's what we witnessed. And another moment when the Taliban recognized my husband, who's also a very famous anti-terrorist figure, and also he's from a minority community, Shia community. They pulled him out of the crowd, put the gun on his head, started saying that, kill this kafir, non-believer, because for
and your children
Taliban
were...
Yes, my daughter was screaming, and my son, that don't kill our father, don't kill our father. And I ran to them, started speaking in their language, which is my language too, Pashto. And I said, all right, we are leaving our home, our life, our country. Just let us leave, take everything, let us go. And they turned to me, and they hit me with the back of the gun and said that your father was coward. Why? Because they married a Pashtun daughter to a Hazara son-in-law.
And I know that your father is raised you in a little bit different way. So can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Well, when he repeated the word coward, in my head I said, you don't know anything about my father. My father come from a very wealthy landlord background, but he left everything and decided to be a teacher his entire life. And he chose to teach people, to teach the generation, to educate them. And no matter what regime came, what political stance there was, he was neutral. And he taught us to be neutral. I remember one day, I was playing outside because I have experienced the first era of Taliban. I was born under Taliban. I was 4 or 5 years old. I was playing outside without a scarf. A Talib commander recognizes me and says, "Come here." And when I go, he slaps me very hard that, "Why are you not wearing a scarf? If next time I see you without a scarf, I will show you what it is." And I ran crying to my father. He was so angry and furious that he told my mother, "Chop her hair off. From now on, she will be dressing as a boy so she could experience every little bit of life as her brother do." And that's when my life changed, and I could experience everything, even under Taliban.
Oh, so you were dressing as a boy, and you were exposed to the life that boys could experience, right?
Right. I was dressed up as a boy up until 13 years when my body started changing. And then I was forced to change to a girl. And before that, I remember I had my first period. Since I was dressing as a boy, I was doing all the activities that a boy should do. I was also taking karate classes. And back then, the mothers would tell the daughters, don't do any activities that boys do, like cycling, like playing sports that boys play, because you will lose virginity. And that day, after a hard day of practice, I come home, and at the night, I see blood. And I was shocked that my mother will kill me. Maybe I broke my virginity. And it was a horrible moment. But luckily, I had a partner in crime who was the same like me. She was a girl, she was dressing as a boy, and I told her that I broke my virginity. And she was laughing at me and said, "No, this is not that case. You are getting your first period." And she taught me how to use a piece of cloth. Because back then, we didn't have the sanitary pad. Afghanistan was way backward than now. So that's where my activism started. The first was when my father dressed me as a boy, and I got to experience both lives, and I knew that what a man thinks and what being a woman is. So I started from school, going to each one of my classmates asking, "How old are you?" And when they said 13, "Do you know you will get period?" And I remember getting in trouble so many times. My teachers would fight with me and call my mother and my father that you haven't taught your daughter manners. And my father would say, "Oh, I have taught her everything she needs to know." My father was always there to have my back. And then when I grew up, I started this group of Dukhtaran Shamal, means girls of the north. And I gathered girls like me, girls likewise, and also rebellious girls from school. We formed a group and we started educating each and every woman about the things that mothers were ashamed to talk with the daughters. And that's how my activism started. And then
wow, this is so interesting that you started being an activist already at such a young age. And how did it influence when you grew up, this dressing up as a boy and starting educating young girls at school?
Well, today I'm here in this platform. It means that it started quite good and went very well, but the only thing which went wrong was the collapse of my country. We were going quite good. The women of Afghanistan was this close to reach that 10% of right which European women has. They're not asking for much, just the 10%. They want to be able to walk on the street without being killed. They want to sit in a restaurant, have a cup of coffee. They want to work. They want to drive, which is quite a common thing. It's not a crime to be able to drive. And the most important thing for Afghan women is and was to have the right on their children, to have their name in their children's birth certificate, which was forbidden in Afghanistan. And we made it after 3 years of activism. We just had got this law passed that the mothers would be mentioned in the children's ID, and now it's all gone.
Wow. And tell us a little bit about the Women Political Participation Network. You started this group 2 years ago, and who is the member? Tell us a little bit about the members of this group and about your activities.
Well, this group is all formed with independent women and also some of our minority community, the LGBT community, and the women who are in this group. We formed this. The reason we formed this group because 2 years ago, these peace talks with the terrorist group who has invaded our country right now started, and we as Afghan women were never ready to go back. And we were afraid that this will happen. So we started forming this group, coming together. Through social media, it started. And we started advocating that if you want to have a peace talk, you should have women included. If there are no women, there is no peace talk. And that's how it formed. And past 6 months, when the situation started changing, we started being more active. And as you could see on the news, the protests which have been taking place past 3 months, it started with this group of women. I would give some example of the women who are in this group. These are just mere examples. There are a lot of them. We have Dr. Batul Said Haidari, who is from a very religious family. She covers herself from head to toe, but she is a sexologist. She has a PhD in sex therapy. She's a sex therapist, and her thesis of PhD is on bachabazi. We have in Afghanistan this topic, you call it maybe...
the molesting.
Yeah, molesting young boys. And that's a very common thing between the warlord, but also a very dangerous topic to work on, especially for a religious woman. Then we have engineer Zahra Jafari. Again, she's from a very conservative city, Herat city, but she has made her own way. She lived alone, single in Kabul, and she has been active, and you can see her face all over the protest and all over the media. We have Khalida Popalzai, Afghan football team captain. She was the first woman who talked about the harassment and molestation she faced when she was in Afghanistan in Olympics by the Olympic head, and she started Hear Me Too movement in Afghanistan. And she's the one who evacuated the entire girls' football team to London with some of our LGBT community members. And there is one person from our LGBT community whose name is Afshar. In Afghanistan, he had to be a boy because they see him as a boy, but he chose to be a girl, and she has chosen Fatana as her name. And now she is in London, safe. So these are just few examples. But we have, in this group, we have teachers, we have tailors, we have housewife, we have mother, and all they have in common is they want the basic right for a woman. They want women to be counted as a human instead of an object. Because in Afghanistan, before these 20 years, women were just an object, a child-making machine, a maid in the home, and that's basically a nanny. But past 20 years changed their narrative. They tasted freedom. They tasted what does it feel like to be a human. So that's all they're asking, and I don't think it's much.
Yeah. So what now, Nilofar? What is the future of Afghan women?
If this collapse hadn't happened, you would see Afghan women on the best platforms. But unfortunately, one way or another, this group will be recognized by the world. But we don't want that. Right now, all we can do is the women who have been evacuated all around the world. I am just one small example. There are hundreds and thousands like me who have been evacuated to different countries. All we can do is to use their talent, to give them platform, to nurture them so they could fight back for their countries, just the way I'm using this platform to speak for my sisters. And I think the future of women holds, we are the flag bearers. We who have left the country, we shouldn't stop, and we will not stop.
Yeah. So, Nilofar, what can we do to support Afghan women in any way possible?
You can do many things. You know, luckily you live in a country where you have rights. There is no upper class and lower class. Everybody has equal rights. So you can use your rights to save people. I was saved by two common people. A woman named Laia Marcel from Spain and a man named Michal Żakowski, a journalist, a radio journalist from Poland. If they can save me and my 5 kids, and today I'm alive, I'm here, I was able to organize this much of protest, you can too. You don't need to spend money. All you need to do is write an email, ask your government, ask the world to not recognize these terrorists, to help Afghan women, Afghan people. Or you can maybe, if you are generous enough, you can find an Afghan woman who is the head of the family in Afghanistan. You can support her. I don't know, maybe financially. Even 50 zloty means a lot for a person in Afghanistan. Or the best thing, keep speaking about them. Keep them alive. Don't let Afghanistan topic to be shoved under the rug. We don't want to be forgotten. Right now, when I'm speaking here, hundreds of Afghan women watching me online, and all they have asked me to do is to ask you all to remember them, to talk about them, to use your social media platforms, to use your gatherings, to at least say that this is happening in Afghanistan. This is happening to Afghan women. They're human. Afghanistan is a 40 million population country, and 20 million is women. You cannot eliminate these 20 million women. You cannot forget these 20 million humans who exist there. So this will be the best thing you can do.
Yeah. Thank you, Nilofar, for this message. So,